In this training, we will be addressing fraud and whistleblower protection. We'll talk about what this requires, if it applies to your project, and how to stay in compliance. What is fraud? In layman's terms, fraud is when an individual intentionally engages in deception for financial or personal benefit. What are the components of fraud? Dr. Steve Elbrecht is credited with developing the concept of the fraud triangle to describe conditions that lead to fraud. These elements or components include perceived pressure, perceived opportunity, and rationalization. Let's take a look at 3 examples of fraud and how these components apply. Motivation. In our first example, a staff accountant is requesting reimbursement for labor costs that are not associated with the funded project or included in the project plan. When we look at the motivation behind this action, we learn that the prime contractor has run out of cash to complete the project, and the staff accountant decides to charge labor that was not approved in the grant budget to float or offset payroll for a few months. Opportunity. In a second example of fraud, a state superintendent is requesting reimbursement for extra fiber to be installed on another project that is not funded by the grant. The site superintendent sees an opportunity to minimize costs on another project and believes that no one will notice. Rationalization. In our final example, an approved project plan states that a contractor will install new conduit. However, the contractor decides to direct bury. The contractor still requests reimbursement from the state for laying new conduit. The contractor rationalizes that direct bury will save time and will remain unnoticed. There are often warning signs of potential fraud. Warning signs indicate that something is out of the ordinary. Auditors, employees, and management need to be aware of warning signs in order to self-monitor the situation and take corrective action. Personnel who notice that small actions are ignored may see an opportunity to pursue actions that pose a greater risk to the organization. What are examples of warning signs? A grantee staff may notice patterns of warning signs that may indicate fraud. These include a change in an employee's lifestyle or refusal to take a vacation or leave, excessive number of year-end transactions or transactions near the end of the grant period of performance, financial duties that are executed by a single person or small group with little oversight, or missing, incomplete, or altered documentation. Examples of warning signs for the grantee, vendor, or contractors. Additionally, the following patterns may be noticeable by internal staff and external partners: reluctance to provide information, increasing vendor invoices through collusion, contracts that result in no product, and organizations colluding to set or inflate prices for a project that eliminates competition in a geographic area, also known as bid rigging or price fixing. The key to preventing fraud. Communication between you and the OIT grant manager is the first step to preventing potential fraud. What do I have to do? Be proactive. Create an environment that reduces the potential for fraud. Ensure that your organization has strong internal controls and a mechanism for identifying and reporting fraud. Grantees will be required to certify in their grant agreement that there are processes and controls in place. During the comprehensive monitoring review, grantees are required to provide a narrative explanation of the process for identifying and reporting suspected financial fraud within their organization. See the monitoring presentation for more information. Be aware of the warning signs for fraud and that fraud can occur at all levels within an organization. This can include back office and accounting staff, on-site labor and contractors, and leadership or management. Remember, all changes to the project plan must be approved by your OIT grant manager. Unusual activity should be reported to the state. Note that not all unusual activity may be considered fraud. However, the state takes all reports seriously. Unusual activity may be reported by calling the OIT Fraud, Weight, and Abuse Hotline at 303-764-7558, emailing at OIT_fraudawareness@state.co.us, or submitting a report online. Please note, an online report or call may be submitted anonymously. However, email correspondence may not be submitted anonymously. Whistleblower protection. All public and private employees are protected by Colorado's Whistleblower Act when reporting suspected fraud. Employees are protected against adverse actions for reporting suspected fraud. However, this is conditional. Employees are protected unless they knowingly submit false information, disclose information not available to public inspection, or disclose information that is confidential under any law. Is my organization required to have processes to prevent and report fraud? Yes. All organizations that receive state or federal funding must have fraud prevention processes. So in summary, the fraud triangle proposes that motivation, opportunity, and rationalization lead to fraud. There are often warning signs of fraud that should not be ignored. Establish internal controls and an environment that reduces the potential for fraud. Report all unusual activity to the state. The Colorado Whistleblower Protection Act protects adverse actions against public and private employees for reporting suspected fraud. Communication with OIT grant managers is key to preventing fraud. Thank you for your time today and your commitment to learning more about the compliance requirements around the Advanced Colorado Broadband programs. Please reach out to us with any questions at advance_cbo@state.co.us.